Dear ladies and gentlemen, conference participants, it's my pleasure to welcome on 20th year of the conference, Globalization and its socio-economic consequences. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused many events around the world to be cancelled or postponed. Unfortunately, our country has been profoundly affected by this global virus pandemic, which did not allow us to organize in the person format of the conference. This year conference is special not only for its 20th anniversary, but also for the participation of diverse academicians and researchers who are interested in different areas of the social science disciplines. To sum up, this year we received more than 430 papers from more than 20 countries, which are thematically focused on the following crucial topics. 9, sorry. Global impact of COVID-19 on economy and society, behavioral economics and decision making, financial management and financial markets, innovation and investment on Industry 4, collaborative economics, digital platforms and multimedia, corporate social responsibility and consumer claims, region and economic resilience, economic sustainability, and last one, international relation and globalization. The conference proceedings, as the previous years, will be sent for the indexation in Web of Science, and the selected papers will be again published in the impact and indexed journals, Web of Science or Scopus or both, after a positive review of editors and in accordance with reviewing process of the particular journals. The authors of papers that can be potentially published in the journal will be informed till end of October, maybe half of November. I don't know. Finally, I would like add some organizational instruction. After the conference opening, there is a plenary session where 6 excellent scientists and a senior researcher will present their findings. Due to technical reason and time restriction, all participants can place their questions either via Q&A feature, Zoom platform, or can ask the question directly after the presentation using the yellow raise hand button. We preferred the last one opportunities. So to conclude, just enjoy the conference. Now let me open the plenary session and invite our guest speakers. First one is Associate Prof. George LAZAROIU from Spiru Haret University, Bucharest and Romania. Next is Professor Marek VOCHOZKA from Institute of Technology and Business, České Budějovice in Czech Republic. Next, Associate Prof. Christian DABIJA from the Babeș-Bolyai University in Romania. Next, Professor Preslav DIMITROV from the Southwest University Neofit Rilski in Bulgaria. Next one is Professor Velga Vevere from EKA University of Applied Science, Riga, Latvia. And last one is Associate Prof. Adam P. Balcerčák from the University of Warmia and Mazury in Olsztyn in Poland. Now, first presentation will be given by Associate Prof. George LAZAROIU, and he devoted to the adoption of mobile payment technologies, social, interactive, consumer-oriented application, and online purchasers decision-making process. Hi, George. Please, you can start.
Hi, Tomas. Thank you so much for inviting me again to your excellent conference, and also thank you to your outstanding team, to Katarina, to Maria, and to the other members of your group your excellent outcomes so
Thank
far have been recognized by being included in the Web of Science. And so your conference and proceedings are an extremely important recognition for your first-rate endeavors in this area. Well, regarding my presentation, my paper analyzes the outcomes of an exploratory review of the current research on the relationship between the global adoption of mobile payment technologies, socially interactive consumer-oriented applications, and online purchasers' decision-making process. The data used for this study was obtained and replicated from previous research conducted by a consultancy and Statista. We performed analysis and made estimates regarding mobile e-commerce sales worldwide, frequency of mobile retail app usage according to US smartphone shoppers, how well organizations understand the customer journey for certain audiences, share of internet users who are likely to use mobile payments on their smartphone in the next year by country, and time spent per mobile app category. Data collected from 6,200 respondents are tested against the research model by using structural location modeling. Among the findings and the value added to the field, I can specify the advent of smartphones redesigns the routine of shopping, thus altering the agency of users. Retailers have instant access to data on the geographical position of users that can be employed in addition to other information to regulate the decision-making process. Perceived effortlessness in utilization of the smartphone is somewhat similar for various mobile shopping application settings. The degree to which mobile purchasing applications are time-critical and location-sensitive may differ substantially. Mobile retailers can make public the personal, collaborative, and instantaneous buying experience that mobile shopping can offer to customers. Well, before I proceed with some sort of summary regarding the whole research, I would like to say some more aspects regarding our survey method. The interviews were conducted online and data were weighted by 5 variables: age, race, and/or ethnicity, gender, education, and geographic region, so that each country's sample composition reliably and accurately reflects the demographic profile of the adult population according to the country's most recent census data. Sampling errors and tests of statistical significance take into account the effect of weighting. Stratified sampling methods were used and weights were trimmed not to exceed 3. Average margins of error at 95% confidence level are plus minus 2%. For tabulation purposes, percentage points are rounded by the nearest whole number, and the precision of the online polls was measured using the Bayesian credibility interval. And an interval-based survey software program was utilized for the delivery and collection of responses. Well, among the main findings of our research are mobile retailers can make public the personal, collaborative, and instantaneous buying experience that mobile shopping can offer to customers. Via promotional campaigns, retailers are able to underpin the adoption of mobile shopping by bringing about awareness and highlighting the practicality and effectiveness with which users can accomplish their purchase objectives. For example, through output gain, swifter buying, and perpetual access. Mobile website developers need to consider closely upgrading platforms that are unproblematic to navigate, with guidelines to assist users smoothly carry out their tasks, whereas mobile platforms can instruct users being at a preliminary mobile shopping readiness stage via a purchase practice that strengthens their confidence. So that's all my presentation. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, George. It was, like every time, very interesting and hot topic themes. And does anyone have any questions? If yes, please press yellow button. The name this button is raise hand. We are preferred these possibilities in the direct question. Okay, if you have nothing, it's okay. I have okay, one people. Yes.
Hello, George.
Hello, Katarina.
Oh, thank you very much for your perfect presentation. And I would like to ask you if you can see any consequences of using big data and smart technologies in using this interesting topic.
Well, I think that consumers that are heavily addicted to smartphones might be tempted to use it as much as possible, even in situations when they are not needed anymore. Just think of Amazon Go shopping centers. But there is something strange because smartphone users are so interested in using them, and they prefer to choose places that enhance such use of them instead of adopting new technologies such as face recognition payment or other kind, let's say contactless palm payment and things like that.
Okay. And considering the COVID-19, what are the biggest changes in the decision making of consumers?
Well, this is somewhat associated with what I said before. Well, consumers might be tempted to pay by by using touchless kinds of payments. Well, this is one more challenge for smartphone users who can, of course, make their payments online, but they might be still tempted to use some sort of classical methods instead of contactless payments, as I previously said.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Katarina, are you satisfied for this?
Yes, excellent as usually.
Okay. And
Thank you.
Next questions. Do you have any questions? George, please. And I have one question. George, how the big data and smart technologies in your attitudes these technologies influence the consumer behaviors? What do you think?
Well,
For future?
I think that by getting customized and personalized recommendations more swiftly and more directly, especially by the introduction of 5G technologies, I think there might be some pressure upon consumers to exceed their conventional, their standard expenses they had planned, and they might try to purchase more things as usual, because there will be that pressure of receiving more and more recommendations, as I said, customized, personalized, and by the introduction of 5G technologies that will be in real time. Just walking down the street and objects around us will send us such offers that are so adapted to our history of shopping, to our purchasing behavior, that is some sort of inevitable way of purchasing them right now, right then.
Okay.
There is some sort of risk.
Thank you very much. Pardon. And for another attendance, if you want to get some answer for QA systems, you will get, and speaker answered later, maybe after plenary session, maybe this evening. Okay, George, thank you very much for your interest presentation, and could you be so kind and get greetings for our friends Elvira, George, Maria Potokovaru, and from Spiru Haret University, Public Administration Faculty, and Customer University. Thank you very much, and I do hope see you next year, maybe some. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye, Tomas.
Bye. Next presenter is Professor VOCHOZKA from Institute of Technology and Business in České Budějovice, Czechia. And Professor VOCHOZKA, please could you join us and share your presentation? Title of this presentation is GDP Development of China and USA in terms on mutual sanction of COVID-19 with us. Marek, please will present these very interesting topics. Thank you very much. Hello, Marek. We don't hear you. Maybe. What? Please stop. Pardon, čo sa stalo? Maybe, Marek, please push your microphone. I don't know. Turn on microphone.
Okay. Is that
yes.
Okay?
Excellent. It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
I will try to share my presentation with you. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, fine. Good morning to you, Tomas, and to all the participants of the conference. I must say that I appreciate that you organize the conference as every year. I think that it would be better if we could meet each other in Haretské Teplice, but I think that this is the best we can do in present days. The topic of my presentation is gross domestic product development of China and USA in terms of mutual sanctions and COVID-19. There are some assumptions. China's share in global economy has experienced a swift growth since opening up and reforming the country's foreign policy in 1978. The quality of life in China has upgraded dramatically based on GDP standards. US sanction on China has so far concentrated on a heap of issues, including China's enormous exchange shortfall with the USA, currency control, constrained market access, licensed innovations robbery, and security issues with Huawei. Also, US sanctions on China has so far led to decrease in exports and outflow. They reduced the inflow, trade, and investment, and apparently hinders the Chinese GDP growth and diminished its currency exchange rate. The research primarily focuses on China's GDP growth rate in the context of US sanctions and COVID-19 situation. You can see in the picture GDP of the People's Republic of China and the USA. You see that the data are quarterly expressed in two curves. The blue one is GDP of People's Republic of China. The red one is GDP of the USA. You can see, just a note, that the difference is huge, but you can imagine that the GDP of China is equal if you count it in Chinese RMBs. Data and methods. I use data from official sources, from statistics of Chinese government and US government. I use data about USD, US dollars, and Chinese yuan's exchange rate that is available on the website. And I use regression of 2-time series that was made by artificial neural networks. I used simple multi-layer perceptron neural networks, and I used also radial basis functional neural networks that use fuzzy logic. The next slide shows the results of smoothing time series of Chinese GDP. You see that the neural networks were successful, and the training, test, and validation performance was more than 98% in each dataset and of each neural network. You see that I used error function least squares. I used some activation functions for hidden layer, logistic function, hyperbolic tangents, exponential function, and some activation functions for output layer, sine, hyperbolic tangents, logistic functions, and that's all. The result in graphic form is available on this slide, and you see that the blue curve is real GDP or GDP of China, and there are 5 curves expressing smooth time series. You can see that all of them are usable for estimation or forecasting of Chinese GDP development. The next slide shows us the results for US GDP time series smoothing, and you see that the results are also excellent. All the neural networks that were used and saved are multi-layer perceptron neural networks, and the performance of all the data sets were more than 96%. That means really near to 100%. The same error function was used. Activation functions of hidden layer were hyperbolic tangents and logistic function. The functions for activation of output layer was identity, logistic function, and hyperbolic tangents. The graphic outcome of the analysis is on this slide. And you see that the blue curve is also the real GDP of the USA. And there are 5 curves expressing smooth time series. That means that all of them are usable. But I think that more interesting slide is now, and you see the upper picture that expresses the forecast situation of Chinese GDP with using second neural network, that means multiple layer perceptron network, with 8 input neurons, 3 neurons in hidden layer, and 1 neuron in output layer. And you see that there is growth in 2 last quarters of this year, of the year 2020. Then there is fall down. I can see very significant. The difference means 20% of the whole GDP of China, and there is growth. That means that it could be interpreted like seasonal difference, but it isn't. If you see the whole time series of GDP development of China in the last 20 years, you can see that there are seasonal differences quarter by quarter, but the difference was not in the past not higher than 5-7%, but the forecast says that the difference will be more than 20% of the whole time series of the whole GDP. That means that we can think that GDP of the People's Republic of China was affected by mutual sanctions with the USA and by COVID-19. The picture down is forecast of the future development of US GDP. It is also the second neural network in the list. The neural network is also a multi-layer perceptual neural network, and it uses eight neurons in input layer, 9 neurons in hidden layer, and 1 neuron in output layer. And you see that in spite of the fact that there are mutual sanctions between People's Republic of China and that the USA were affected very strongly by COVID-19, we supposed growth of the gross domestic product of the USA. Next slide shows us the situation in context of the whole analyzed time series, and you see the lower one is Chinese GDP and its development, and you see the fall down, and then its stabilization till the end of 2021, and then you see the situation in the USA, yellow and red curve in the end of the time series, and you see that the United States were affected, but not so strongly as China. And conclusions. We can say that the USA have not been harmed by mutual sanctions with the People's Republic of China. We can say that People's Republic of China has been harmed by mutual sanctions with the USA. However, it was able to react and find a suitable market for its goods in a relatively short time. You know that China and Chinese government started dealing with other countries to place their goods and to hold the level of their GDP. The USA were damaged by, or the US GDP was not damaged but harmed by COVID-19, and this situation will certainly stagnate its GDP by the end of 2021. The People's Republic of China was damaged or harmed by COVID-19, and measures against the disease will cause a decline in the performance of the Chinese economy, at least until the end of 2021. I would like to express many thanks that you listened to me, and I hope that the presentation was interesting for you, and I'm waiting for your questions. Thank you very much again.
Dear Marek, thank you very much for your presentation. It was very interesting. It is obvious that you and your members from your university have had very huge and intensive cooperation from a lot of China universities and another China research center. My standard questions is, does anyone have any questions? Again, if you have, you press yellow button, raise hand. The name is raise hand, please. We wait.
If you allow me, if you let me, I will say that you are right, that we have strong cooperation with many Chinese universities, and I would like to prove it. Now I drink Chinese tea, and this is a cup that was given to me by rector of one Chinese universities in Beijing.
Beijing. I think, and this name of this university, Ningbo University, or
No. It's North China University of Technology, and it's located in northern part of Beijing.
Mhm. Thank you very much. But I have one questions.
Okay,
Do you
tell me.
have any experience, or what is your attitudes about this situation? Not USA, China and other European countries. Maybe not Czech and Slovak Republic and quite huge countries. For example, Germany or UK. Do you have any?
Yeah. I've analyzed with my team also gross domestic products of other countries, especially in European Union. I can say that there are two countries that are very interesting. That means Germany and Malta, or both the countries prepared for an extremely unpleasant situation like this, and made reserves that can be used for this situation. They say that they prepared for rainy days, and you see that their economies are not so affected as in the case of other countries. For example, Spain. You know that there were some problems before COVID period started, and I think that it was very damaging for them.
Thank you very much. And one very small questions. Your model, artificial intelligence models, that
Mhm.
is the GDP per capita or
No. It was total number.
total number?
Yeah. Because
I
you
didn't
know,
catch.
I don't know if in your countries, but in the Czech Republic, there was some presentation about the GDP growth of China. And one economist in the past told us that Chinese GDP overmastered the American, but there was a little mistake. He calculated with the GDP of People's Republic in China in Chinese yuan, and with US GDP in US dollars.
Mhm.
But but US dollars is a little bit more valuable.
Yes. Thank you. Now it's clear for me. Thank you
Okay.
very much. And once again, if you have any question for attendance, you will get by uh, Q&I system, and Professor VOCHOZKA will be answered later, maybe this evening, etc. Marek, once again, thank you very much, and could you be so kind and get the greetings for our friends and colleagues from your university? Thank you very much.
Thank you again for inviting me. I appreciate that you organized the conference, and I think that it's outstanding from your side. Thank you again, and enjoy the conference.
Okay, bye bye.
Bye.
Next presenter is Associate Prof. Christian DABIJA from, I don't know, Babeș-Bolyai University, Romania. And dear Professor DABIJA, are you ready to start to share your presentation? The title is Heavy Work Investment and Empirical Approach in the Context of COVID-19 Pandemic. Please, here you go.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much for this opportunity. Thank you very much for allowing me to participate in this conference and for having this keynote speech, this invited speech in this morning. Congratulations for the conference, for the very good organization. I'm very sorry that I'm not able to meet you in person and also the other participants. But I hope that this will be possible in the next period of time or in the next years. I'm coming from the Babeș-Bolyai University in Cluj-Napoca, Romania. This is in Transylvania. And my presentation regards heavy work investment. We have done an empirical approach or analysis during the COVID-19 pandemic. It's a joint work with my colleague, Marcela Sephora-Nemțianu. The agenda for today, I will present briefly the research context, then the heavy work investment and the dimensions of this concept, then job satisfaction and turnover intention, the theory where we base our research and that we want to extend, our research methodology, then I will present the results and make some brief discussions, and of course, the conclusions. So, as you all know, the SARS-CoV-19 virus started in late December 2009 in China. It has infected very, very many people globally. The numbers of new cases are rising. This has also had a tremendous impact on the employees on a global scale, which had to change their working conditions. On the one side, going from classic working in bureaus to mostly online working or teleworking. Remote work, teleworking was adopted as an alternative solution. This has also had some other impacts on global employees, namely some of them lost their job, but others had to work harder, had to take over more responsibilities, had to try to cope with the scope of the organizations, with the strategies of the organizations. So therefore, to a certain extent, the employees' insecurity and job instability represents now a real problem in the context of COVID-19, leading, in our opinion, to stress and to the lack of job satisfaction among employees. In this context, we would like to present the heavy work investment. This is actually a new phenomenon among employees. This means increased number of hours and great effort to their endeavors and daily tasks. There are some positive outcomes for employees, like possible improved work performance and increased job satisfaction, but there are also some negative outcomes for employees, like workaholism, so working too much, decreased work performance, decreased job satisfaction, or burnout. So there is actually a very huge problem, and the problem is that employees could work too hard. This could lead to either an increased job satisfaction and better work performance, or if they don't cope with the stress, it could lead to a decreased job satisfaction and the workaholism and the burnout. And that would also lead probably to the danger of the turnover intention and leaving the organization. So therefore, we wanted to see how these dimensions of heavy work investment during the pandemic crisis in this spring have affected actually employees from an emerging country, namely from Romania. There are numerous studies in the last year that have transferred and have analyzed the heavy work investment on employees in different countries. The most studies were actually to be found in developed countries, but there are less or very, very few in emerging ones. So therefore, heavy work investment means actually employee time and employee effort. And it tries to analyze actually the different problems that appear. For example, employees attempt to cope with strenuous work. They have a heavy workload per week. They have to cope with deadlines for their tasks and for their projects. And they also have a very large volume of activities, which normally would require more employees, but unfortunately, they do not have, or not all companies have the possibility of hiring more companies. So one dimension would be workaholism. Workaholism would mean individuals' compulsive need to work. The exaggerated type of work which has harmful effects and might damage an individual's physical and mental health and well-being. And it could lead to burnout, as the literature highlights it. It's actually a dispositional type of heavy work investment in time. There are two dimensions of the workaholism. On the one side is the compulsive, and on the other side is the excessive working. So actually, workaholism would mean an individual which is willing to work for a longer period of time and or more intensively than their co-workers in order to obtain certain advantages, desire for self-affirmation, or accomplish something significant from an existential perspective. On the other hand, another dimension of work, of heavy work investment is work engagement. This would mean the employee's positive state of mind characterized by vigor, dedication, and absorption. Usually it's associated with positive personal resources like high self-esteem and optimism, positive personality traits such as openness, conscientiousness, and extroversion, and usually it leads to job satisfaction or to high performance. Then we have also job satisfaction, as heavy work investment could, on the positive side, lead to job satisfaction. This would mean and refer to employees' attitudes and emotions that people experience regarding their job. Usually there should be positive feelings and attitudes towards jobs, but of course, there are also some negative aspects that could lead to job unsatisfaction. Job satisfaction is usually enhanced by justice in the workplace, by stimulation of competition, by the existence of a rewarding system, or actually also by the comfort at the working place. If employees work too hard and if they develop negative feelings regarding the job, then there is the danger that employees could leave the organization. This is called by the literature like turnover intention, the intention of leaving the organization. So it's let's say behavior of voluntary withdrawal from the current position, and it's combined with the individual's lack of identification with the work that has been done. Turnover intention is evident when employees no longer consider their job to be satisfying according to their own expectations, needs, and demands. It's also based on heavy dissatisfaction and an increase of frustration. There are some early signs of turnover intention, like burnout. Other studies have highlighted that increased nepotism could lead to turnover intention or to an organizational climate that generates conflicts among co-workers or team members. We have tried to base our study on the attribution theory and to enhance this theory to have original contribution to the literature. The attribution theory explains the dispositional and situational nature of heavy work investment generated either by internal predictors such as passion or work dependency, or by external predictors such as monetary needs or employer demands. The heavy work investment manifests itself in two main types, the situational and the dispositional perspective. From the situational perspective, this means this is generated by external factors such as the financial needs of individuals or organizational demands, while the dispositional perspective, it's determined by internal factors pertaining to the individual patient for their work or work addiction. So the research model that we are trying to investigate would be this. On the one hand, there are the two dimensions of heavy work investments, namely work engagement and workaholism. The two dimensions would actually impact job satisfaction, and job satisfaction would either lead to a decrease of turnover intention, or if there isn't the job satisfaction, then probably employees would really leave the organization. We have tried to search to analyze these aspects in the Romanian context during the pandemic. We have therefore employed different scales that were previously used by the literature. These scales have been found in different studies which were already conducted. We have had an online questionnaire which was addressed to Romanian employees which had tenured contracts. We measured all scales and all items on a 5-point Likert scale. We obtained about 766 questionnaires, and we performed structural equation modeling in AMOS. Of course, we performed some tests in order to see that data is valid, reliable, and has some internal consistency. This would mean this would be the results of the factor analysis. We have, of course, also tried to see the Cronbach alpha for each construct. When performing the analysis, we have found out that work engagement and all items that make these dimensions could be extracted. Also, the items regarding workaholism, but actually workaholism understood as excessive working. Unfortunately, the items which characterize the dimension of compulsive work did not meet the necessary criteria regarding Cronbach alpha, regarding internal consistency. So therefore, we skipped this other dimension of compulsive work from our further analysis. We have also made the factor analysis for job satisfaction and turnover intention, and we have seen that these two dimensions also form and the different items load on the complementary dimensions. So then we have analyzed these relations, this framework with structural equations modeling in AMOS. And we have found out that work engagement, usually in Romania, leads to job satisfaction. This is a positive and strong influence. We have also found out that work engagement is indirectly related to turnover intention. So if employees really engage in what they are doing, they will probably not leave the organization. But on the other hand, there is, of course, this phenomenon, this aspect of excessive working, of workaholism. If employees are really working too hard and if they are stressed, they are not satisfied with their job. So workaholism would actually lead to job insatisfaction. And on the other hand, if they are really too stressed, they are overworking, then they will probably leave their organization. So the turnover intention is increasing. And last but not least, job satisfaction has also an impact on turnover intention. So we could actually say that if employees are satisfied with their work, they probably would not leave the organizations. We have tried to compare our results with previous findings from the literature, and we have seen that there are some previous studies from developed countries that came to similar conclusions to us. There are also some studies that highlighted negative impact of workaholism has on job satisfaction. The more engaged or involved employees are in their responsibilities, their turnover intention would diminish. Workaholism favors turnover intention. This has also been found in a study from 2014. Excessive work and obsessive work has actually an impact on turnover intention. And of course, if employees are satisfied with their work, then probably the turnover intention would diminish. So as the conclusions, there are some theoretical implications of our work. We have tried to extend the studies based on the attribution theory regarding the implications of the dispositional types of heavy work investment on work outcomes and job satisfaction. We have shown that there is a positive, strong, and significant influence of work engagement on job satisfaction, like in similar studies from the literature. We have also showed that excessive working, the part of workaholism, has a significant and negative influence on job satisfaction, and it determines actually the turnover intention. And we have actually tested an original model on an emerging market. From managerial perspective and managerial implications, I think, or we think, that this study might be very important for organizations because they would know what are the dimensions that could lead to employees leaving their organization. And they could also see what activities, what tasks would lead to employees being burned out or developing a certain workaholism. So in our opinion, organizations in Romania, but also in other countries, should usually try to observe their employees and try not to overwhelm the employees with different tasks, because this could lead to stress, and this could also lead to the turnover intention of their staff. Now, of course, our study has also some limitations. We have implemented the survey in different industries. We have not considered any particular industry. Most of the respondents came from service industries like IT industry. We also did not have a significant impact of the compulsive work components of the workaholism, and this is could be a limitation, a considerable limitation. And of course, it would also be interesting to make a comparison between the perception of employees regarding heavy work investments in Romania compared to other emerging economies. So this would be actually also some future research perspectives for our work. And of course, it would be also possible to add other dimensions to our study, like internal marketing, work performance, or organizational engagement. These are some references that we have used. Thank you very much for your attention. These are my contact information. I'm also guest editing different special issues in different journals. If you want to submit the papers or your papers to these special issues, I would be more than happy. For example, There is a special issue in the European Journal of International Management, which I'm guest editing, another special issue in sustainability, and some two more special issues in emerging sources citation index journals. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm happy to answer your questions.
Thank you very much, dear Associate Professor DABIJA. I'm looking for next or future cooperation, and we received one question for via Q&I. Do you see these questions, Christian?
No.
Just a moment, please. Okay.
Hello, Christian.
Hello.
The question was written by me, so if it is possible to ask you the question in this form, I would like to ask you it like this. So it is evident that the COVID-19 pandemic influences also the working climate and overall conditions in many countries, in many enterprises. Would it be possible for you, because your research is excellent even in this phase of searching, could you not at all. Could you identify the most affected sectors, maybe the most affected enterprises?
This was not, unfortunately, this was not the scope of our research.
Okay.
And we did not ask the respondents in which sectors they were working, because as we found in the literature, when making the personalization of the concepts, there were more likely it was more important to have to be a tenured employee than analyzing different industries.
Perfect.
But of course, this would be, let's say, a limitation of our study or a future perspective of our study. And on the other hand, there was also the danger that probably we will not get enough questionnaires, enough responses, because employees are stressed due to the pandemic, they maybe will not answer the question. So we hope to have more than 1,000 filled in questionnaires, but we didn't manage to collect that many. So it was really, really difficult. So in order to make such an industry comparison, probably we would have to have several thousand questionnaires, I think.
Okay, perfect. Because I'm really interested in your research, because it is really interesting considering the current situation and the situation with COVID-19. And you mentioned the limitations of your study, that you would like to compare the situation in developed and emerging countries. Do you have any maybe type or any suggestions which countries to compare, where the differences are the most enormous, maybe?
Well, I think that the most affected countries from Central and Eastern Europe would be very interesting to compare.
Definitely.
Because probably there is much stress. So I guess if you have a total lockdown, or we had all a total lockdown in spring, and probably we will also have now a total lockdown, I think that this might lead to heavy work investment or to workaholism or to burnout from employees' perspective. So I think only to see which countries will now have a lockdown situation, and then probably it would be interesting to compare them.
Okay, thank you very much. I am looking forward to your next research, because it is really interesting. Thank you.
So our next research is regards teleworking, home officing.
Okay, perfect. Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Katarina. Are you satisfied for this answer?
Yes, it was excellent.
Yes, definitely. Okay, dear associate professor, I don't know that I quote correctly. You mentioned only about the negatively effect and consequences, coronavirus and the job market and job skills. And do you have any positively, do you have any knowledge about positively affect the situation for job market? What do you think?
Well, there are, of course, also positive aspects. Work engagement in Romania and in our study have been found to have a positive effect on job satisfaction. So the more employees are engaged in their task, the more satisfied they are in what they are doing. And on the other hand, there is also a positive effect regarding if employees are satisfied with what they are doing, they will probably not leave the organization. So the turnover in pension will decrease. So in this respect, yes, I would say that there are some positive outcomes that we have found.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? I think we are received written question. Not. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, dear Professor DABIJA. And once again, I mentioned the Professor DABIJA is editor-in-chief some special issue journal Sustainability, and member of editor board some very important journals. It is very interesting for cooperation. And
yes,
I thank you very much.
Thank you.
And I forgot the first presenter, Associate Prof. LAZAROIU, is editor-in-chief and member of editor boards, a lot of Scopus journals, Q1, Q2, in Adelton publishers. It's so interesting for attendance. Christian, thank you very much. And once again,
thank you very much.
I'm looking for future cooperation.
Yes, I'm also looking. Thank you very much. All the best. Good luck with everything and stay healthy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You and your family and colleagues too. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye. Bye. Bye.
Yes. And the next presentation is Professor Preslav DIMITROV from Southwest University, Neofit Rilski in Bulgaria.
Good morning.
Good morning. And Professor Dimitrov focusing on the global incoming tourism flow in Turkey and its influence on the incoming tourism flow in the Mediterranean and Black Sea countries. Mr. Professor, please, you can start your presentation. Floor's in yours. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll share my screen. Just hold it for a second. Do you see my presentation?
Just a moment. Yes?
One moment.
Just.
I've started sharing. I'll try once again if there is a problem.
It's okay.
Okay, you see it. Okay, now just let me move to the first slide and to the full screen mode. Okay.
It's okay.
Okay, good morning, everyone. It's my real pleasure to share this presentation and this research that we have made approximately 2 years and a half ago, 3 years actually from now. It has also been presented in the Tourism Management Studies conference in Portugal, where we have strong partners from the University of the Algarve. And by the way, because it was mentioned on this conference about the successful cooperation of our Czech colleagues, if I remember right, in China University, we also are working heavily on these regions. So maybe it will be a good opportunity for networking after the end of the session in these regards. But let me focus on my presentation because it's the reason for which I'm here. We were provoked for this research on this paper by the fact that Turkey and what's going on in the Turkish travel and tourism industry does heavily influence us. Do you hear me?
Yes, okay.
does influence heavy the Bulgarian tourism industry, because Turkey is not only our good neighbor, but it's also a major competitor. And what is going in the Turkish tourism industry also influence the rest of the Mediterranean and Black Sea side countries. So this provoked our research interest for the degree of influence that the Turkish incoming tourism flows does influence our country and the rest of the country in our region. And I here have to have some backstory. We as a country, we have experienced this influence for more than let's say 40 years, as far as even one of the major political crises in our region in 1974, the so-called Cyprus crisis, also was a major turning point in the development of the Bulgarian tourism industry. And this was also what is going on as political relations between Russian Federation, which is one of the major tourism emitting markets for the Mediterranean basin, and what is developing in Turkey also influences all these processes. Unfortunately, this whole conjunction of factors have been studied only in a qualitative matter so far by mostly Turkish researchers. However, there was no quantitative analysis of how the tourism flows actually mean. It means the number of tourism arrivals annually in Turkey produces an effect on the rest of the countries. So we took the data of the annual data of the number of international tourism arrivals in the Mediterranean countries, as well as in the Black Sea side countries from 1995 to 2017, in order to study through a qualitative analysis the interrelations and influences that the different data flows, different data series produce to each other, and especially the ones that concern Turkey. How did we do that? We actually used two major methodologies, major approach. The first was to the first aim in this methodology was whether and to which degrees, for which countries the incoming tourism flows does play a significant role. And the second aim is to study, to have understanding on the influences that the incoming tourism flows to the other Mediterranean and Black Sea countries have on the incoming tourism flows in Turkey. Actually, we studied the processes from the two sides, from what is happening in Turkey and how Turkey influences the other countries, how the other countries do influence Turkey. So for this, we used, our first step was to measure the degree of association of the incoming tourism flows in Turkey and the other Mediterranean Black Sea countries, and if possible to distinguish some major incoming tourism flows that have the highest degree of association, the highest correlation coefficients with the coming tourism in Turkey. And the second step in our methodology was to use a Granger causality test and to determine, actually to prove the existence of this causality of these reasons, this influence. And the first step was to compare the results of the Pearson moment correlation moment coefficients, especially with the highest, with the group of the highest results from our Granger's test. And the first step, of course, was to draw some conclusions and possible explanations and interpretations of the achieved results. Here you can see some of our initial calculations of the correlation coefficients, with the exception of course, of what is going in Cyprus, in the Greek part of the island. Actually, this is the internationally recognized Cyprus Republic, which is a member of the European Union. In the rest, all the rest countries, there is a positive correlation of the incoming tourism flows. This, of course, is not something that we could not expect, as far as such correlation processes does exist due to the overall positive tendency of increase of the global tourism industry up to the appearance of the coronavirus pandemic. So it was explicable, and here you can see some of these, some of the charts of the charts that we have drawn for the different group of countries and Turkey, and most of the lines, development lines of the number of the tourism arrivals showing one and the same trends, one and the same tendencies. So such kind of a correlation coefficients are not, of course, well explained. However, this can be also explained. Another reason for this, this strong correlation coefficient is that on the Mediterranean market and the Black Sea side tourism market, there was a strong influence of a certain group of incoming tourism flows to Turkey, to countries like the Russian Federation, and of course to the Balkan countries, which have also influenced as a whole the market. So this is another reason for these coefficients. Anyway, after making the study on the correlation coefficients, Pearson product common correlation coefficients, we turned to the Granger causality test, where we used actually we made the study that we used the test for 1 and 2 lakhs of causality, so that we can see how and to what extent there is a causality relation. And we found a group of countries that does influence the Turkish tourism industry, and a group of countries which have less influence. The first group of countries, table 1, actually these are the countries that are heavily influenced by the tourism incoming flows to Turkey. And these countries are Romania, Montenegro, Malta, Lebanon, Italy, Israel, Greece, France, Cyprus, and Georgia, Croatia, and Albania. And looking from the coefficients of the tourism flows to Turkey, correlation coefficients, they pretty much show the same results. We also made another how to say another more detailed study on what extent the incoming tourism flows to the other countries do influence what is going in Turkey, the incoming tourism flows. And we found that there are certain also a group of countries which actually influence the Turkey, and we noticed that it's in this group of country. One of them is Morocco, and also Bulgaria is having our country is having an influence on the incoming tourism flows to Turkey. Once again, here one of the possible answers that was in our head before finally finding all the data, producing all the data, because this was not one day work in order to achieve this result, was the fact that the Russian tourists sometimes, because of the political situation and the lack of stability in the Middle East, and especially in the Asia Minor and the region of Turkey, very easily shift from Turkey to other more alike countries in kind of culture. Well, believing or not, Bulgaria does share lots of cultural heritage with Turkey because of our presence in the Ottoman Empire for 500 years. So the Russian tourists usually prefer as an alternative either Bulgaria or Morocco or Egypt. And this was shown in other studies, in other tables for the Granger tests. what actually came as final results of the study is that first of all, the results do not reveal presence of statistically significant relations in case of 1 or 2 lakhs between the tourism flows to Turkey and the tourism flows to Spain, Russia, and Portugal. Actually, it was a surprising outcome because Spain and Portugal are one of the major players on the Mediterranean tourism markets. But actually, though Turkey is also another major player, it does not influence these tourism flows, and the tourism flows to these countries do not influence Turkey as well. However, we see that the influence on the tourism flows to Turkey upon all the other countries in the current research, both 1 and 2 lakhs. Generally, the tourist Turkey causes a change in the tourism flows to Romania, Montenegro, Malta, and Lebanon, Israel, Greece, Georgia, France, Cyprus, Croatia, and Albania. And the tourist flow to Turkey is influenced mainly by the tourism flows directed to Tunisia, Ukraine, Morocco, Egypt, and Bulgaria. Actually, this study revealed and proved something which is widely spoken in literature, but has never been proved to what extent the different competitors influence each other. So actually, we succeeded to show that and to prove that Tunisia, Morocco, Egypt, to some extent Bulgaria and Ukraine are actually influencing what is going on the Turkish travel and tourism market. And also, we came to the conclusion that some of the Mediterranean and Black Sea countries have explicitly high degree of association between their incoming tourism flows and incoming tourism flows in Turkey. These are these countries, which are Morocco, Bulgaria, Montenegro, Romania, Croatia, Italy, Lebanon, France, and Georgia, however, have not so high a degree of causality Granger test influence. That means that what we have considered as a temporary basis of shifting the tourism flows on political reason from one country to the other cannot be considered as a real true reason. The reason for these influences actually are hidden in much more deep processes, and these deep processes in the consumers' choices, consumer satisfaction, and consumer decisions for having one or another travel and tourism visit is actually based on other factors that stood behind the political reasons, behind the political turmoil and instability issues that review. By the way, at the moment, because everything is almost freezed in the travel and tourism industry in the region, the tourism flows are, they are very low ever degree. We can expect on the number of the fact that these influences are made on other reason of attractiveness, of a reason of building of image recognition, which these countries have in the eyes of not only of the Western consumers, but also of Central European consumers, and consumers in Eastern Europe. These positively made images may be easily rebuilt, reconstructed, and have a positive effect after the coronavirus pandemic. If we, however, if these countries that have been produced as a major influencers on Turkey and as a major, independent states of tourism markets development, have engaged and consider very active, very positive advertising and marketing campaign after the COVID-19 pandemic. So this was also proved why I'm stating a period of 3 years. First of all, because our survey does show that there are 2-year lags of this influence. And second, it's because of the fact that, and it's been proven by numerous researchers, that usually the so-called snail effect in the tourism industry, the snail effect is effect that is produced on the consumer behavior in a certain market whenever there's a negative, external negative effects like earthquake, like some kind of mass infectious disease or something like this. Usually the tourists, usually the consumers, forget about this in a period of 3 years. So in compliance with the result of our research on this snail effect that usually is present on the tourism markets, we can state that probably after the coronavirus epidemic has been put to some regulation or some managerial management control, in the future they could be expect the same process to review once again within a time lag of 3 years. Thank you very much for your attention. If you have any questions, I'll be all yours.
Thank you very much. This presentation was very interesting because tourism sector is very important for GDP and very positively, sometimes negatively influence for trend of GDP. Once again, thank you very much. And we received one question.
Yes.
Do you see this question?
Just let me exit my sharing a screen, and I'll try to answer it. Okay, I think, dear Professor Dimitrov, would like to ask you if you can also see any problems with the tourism in general in seaside countries due to COVID restrictions. Oh yes, okay, I will answer live. We do see lots of problems in my country as well as all the Mediterranean seaside countries and over the world. The problem, the major of the problems is coming with the fact that there is much more. There is an enormous decrease in the number of the tourism arrivals everywhere. The second is that the tourists are making their choice on safety, on the reasons of safety, on the reasons of the restrictions that their national governments are putting on them, and this, of course, provokes lots of decreases in incomes of the tourism destinations. For example, Bulgaria has a decrease of 85% of what we usually receive from the summer tourism. This year, we're 85% down. Fortunately, we relied on our internal market, internal tourism for the tourism industry to survive. And this is not only for our country, it's same in Turkey, it's same in all over the Mediterranean. What we also need to have in mind is that there are lots of efforts made by the tourism companies all over the world and in certain destinations to prove that this destination that will advertise itself is really a safe one. And there are lots of measures in this regard, both at national, even on European level for this. For us, it's a major challenge. It's a major challenge, and it jeopardizes the whole existence of the tourism sector, not only in my country, but all over the world. Because if you don't have the international visitor arriving, you don't have a sale, you don't have any business process going on. So this will be a major challenge for the future, especially to convince the international visitors, international tourists, that they are really safe, that they could also could amuse themselves in a full scale, and can also be come back safely without any restrictions. I think I hope that I have tried to properly answer the question.
Thank you very much. Are you satisfied for this answer? Okay, and we received next questions, please.
Can you?
Yes.
Dear Professor, can you hear me?
Yes, I do.
Yes, my name is Dr. Durana, and thank you very much for your presentation and for our new collaboration. And I have also a question to the current situation. How are you solving the situation caused by COVID-19 at your university in Bulgaria?
First, thank you for having me, and second, thank you for this question, because it's another challenge. At the moment, because we are facing actually a fourth wave. The politicians claim that it's a second wave of coronavirus, but if you look at the data of the number of daily cases in Bulgaria, it's actually a fourth wave. Actually, it's the strongest one. So, and my university especially is in a region which has the highest degree of daily COVID cases. So for us, it's really a challenge and a matter of, let's say, of existence and really saving the lives of our students, of our administrative academic staff, and of course of the beloved of our students. So what we did as measures is school by school, actually faculty by faculty, we are taking decisions on whether to go online for our bachelor degree students. 2 of our faculties went on online remote, actually distance learning also for our master degree students. At my school, we have taken the decisions to go online for the bachelor degree students and for the master degree students to go online on request from their side, also for the examination, because we have now an examination sessions for all those students that are master degree students but are on part-time basis. So we are as flexible as we can. We have, of course, online platforms for ensuring this online teaching, distance teaching, and we have introduced precaution measures in our premises. We have checkpoints with temperature measuring frames. We have special screens for the administrations in front of the desk so that they prevent direct contact with the students and with the visitors. All our academic staff are equipped with special helmets that we do wear whenever we have the obligation to go in class. And of course, we are much more prepared to go on even more severe restriction measures, even to complete lockdown if necessary. But we understand that our students need a physical contact. Also, we understand their fears. So we have to balance at the same time their desire to come to see us, to interact with us, with the necessity to keep their lives, their health safe. And we are also responding, we are listening to them. Another thing that we have undertaken as a university, and actually we'll undertake in the next few days, we will create special students task forces for translating our messages, our communications to the students, to their parents through the social media, to a much more understandable language. Why we are doing this? Because we are now acting with a generation of millennials and even younger students that sometimes speaking a more administrative way of speaking through ordinances, through direct announcements that we are doing this or that, provoke sometimes perplexion, sometimes hesitation, sometimes negative reactions. And in order our decisions to be properly understood, why we are doing this or that, we need focus groups, we need task force groups of students which are interacting with their friends in a much more friendly way, with their expressions, with the wording, with the proper way of communication in social media. By the way, it doesn't mean only Facebook or Instagram, the more traditional ones, if I can quit, but it also means the newly appeared social media, where our students, believe me or not, are sharing everything of what we are doing as lecturing, as teaching, sometimes even mocking at us, sometimes even making joke on us. But this is good. It shows that they're in the virtual classrooms, they're interacting with us. So another way of reaching their hearts and minds, it's a way out and way of proper managing the situation.
Dear Professor, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your comprehensive answer. I am fully satisfied. So thank you very much and greetings from Slovakia. Good luck in your future work.
Thank you very much to all Slovak colleagues, and congratulations for the perfect organization and what you are doing, dear colleagues. Thank you very much. It was really an honor for me to be with you.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye. Next presenter or plenary section is Professor Velga Vevere from Applied Sciences, Riga, Latvia. Dear Professor, thank you for your participation in our conference. And I would like to ask you to present your paper titled Behavioral Economics on Higher Education Institution, Business Collaboration Paradigm in Context of Global Competition. Please, here you go.
I have a question. Can you see my screen?
I think that yes, it's okay.
Yeah, okay. Because I don't see my face at this at this moment.
It's very nice.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is, of course, each system is a little bit different. First of all, of course, I would like to express my gratitude for being involved in this conference and in scientific committee of this conference as well. And actually, I would like to say this is my 5th year of participating in the conference, and for the first time participating in this mode. Although it is nothing new, because I have been participating in that kind of conferences starting with April already. So in April, in August, in September, and now. I hope that we will see each other next year face to face. Like continuing just really short, continuing like what the previous speaker told about these new different ways of teaching of students, I would like to say that we also employ, like in one school, because I'm teaching in 2 business schools, in one school we're we're teaching online only, and in another school we're having a mixed teaching methods. Okay, so in the beginning of my presentation, I would like to say that this is ongoing project, and we actually have reached the stage number 2 of the project, or 2.5 stage. Because I'm working together with my doctoral student, and he's from Turība University, and we are working on like our the focus in this research is we're going from the viewpoint of behavioral economics from the nudge theory, and then we'll try to look how how we can develop a model of higher education institution and business collaboration. And I'm saying that we are on the 2.5 stage because we have done the literature review. We have created a questionnaire. We have done alpha Cronbach analysis, and it is 0.839. It is a high consistency of our questionnaire. And we have done already a part of the research in surveying undergraduate students. Yeah, but as we understand, when talking about the model, we would go further on to expand our survey among students, and of course we're going to survey also officials of the universities, and our concentration is upon universities of Latvia, both public and private universities. Of course, I would like to say one more thing, that it is very important that the changes that will be made in these models caused by COVID-19 also. Yeah, I don't want to say that they radically change the model, but since our aim is to work out the different adaptation strategies of these collaboration models for the universities, like to make to make this outcome as a real work, then of course COVID is what would change. Being involved in 2 business schools and as well in 1 public school, because I'm teaching also at the Faculty of Business Management at the University of Latvia, I would like to say that the problem at this moment is, although there are many different collaboration occurrences or collaboration trends in the schools, for example, in the like if we talk about business incubators or business hubs, then we talk about involvement of business practitioners in the work and planning of the teaching process also. Because I work in business schools, it means that we have professionals. Plus involvement of students in many projects. For example, in Turku University, we have a faculty of international tourism, and within this faculty, these faculty students together with professors, they are actually working out practical business solutions related to tourism, especially in the COVID situation for certain Latvia regions. Their students are involved. But the problem is, and actually why our research could turn out very useful at the end. The problem is that although different universities employ different strategies, yeah, but there is no some kind of model, like general model, yeah, because they're using like this or they're using that. They are doing a lot of things, but at the same time they are not really doing something systematically. So our perspective model, and we plan to publish a monograph in English, by the way, but it will be in a few years' time. So we are in the beginning of not exactly the beginning, yeah, but the second and a half stage. So, so topicality of the research, as I told you, in relation to Latvia, it is related to the lack of some unified vision of this research, although of course it is always required by the universities when we are we're working out on our course descriptions. We were asked to think about the particular skills and competences and competence education and so on and so forth. But at this moment, yeah, we can we have to look at, of course, that impact of the universities on the development of businesses is important, and at the same time it is important to look at the side from the universities, what businesses can give for the development of professional educational and developing of competencies. And if we look, of course, there are documents, especially, for example, Horizon 2020 has been one of the key framework, yeah, to many collaborations between these parties. So on the basis, yeah, these are like kind of general statements. Yeah, you can read them faster than I can talk. But I would like to say that there are many areas. And after the research, the aim of the research, this particular research for this particular article, to research the undergraduate's appraisal of higher education institution business collaboration. So then we will expand further on. So the model we are testing at this moment is the model that is, just a second. Okay, the model we're testing, so we're testing not all of these aspects, yeah, but we basically we created our questionnaire on the basis of this model, yeah. So we were talking about the entrepreneurship, curriculum development, commercialization, and collaboration, yeah, these main aspects. So we employed methodology, like we created, as I told you already, we created a survey actually, we created two like a survey consisting of 15 items of statements, yeah, and the undergraduates evaluated on the Likert scale from 1 till 7, evaluated different statements, and they were altogether 15 items. And as I told before, already the Alpha Kronbach, the internal consistency of this questionnaire, it was rather high. But the interesting thing is we applied the same questionnaire, asking questions about how students feel the importance of these different aspects, yeah, and they evaluated. And the second is, how do they feel? How advanced are these methods? How good are they being applied at the university, at least advanced? And so we had a sample of 167 respondents and from Latvia. But we are going to expand this because this was kind of testing of our research model, yeah, and the sample ratio between male and female, yeah, it's of course it's just for informative. So if we go to results, I'm showing just at this moment showing 3 slides. And in the publication, there will be more detailed analysis. Yeah, but here, like our most important aspects, yeah, the evaluation according to the Likert scale. These are arithmetic means of what students what students feel to be the most important. And as we see here, so the students are focusing upon the collaboration and understanding, some kind of thinking about their future jobs and future careers, and understanding. If we talk about this co-learning process, for example, yeah, if we think about this from the viewpoint of pedagogical viewpoint, then this co-learning process within the framework, this new framework we're thinking about, its co-learning process is co-learning with participation of the specialists from business industries. Yeah, so guest lectures, teaching, yeah, applying specific courses, internships, and so on and so forth. Then we see then the main is understanding the role of entrepreneurship. But if we look at most advanced aspects, and we offered the same scale, yeah, like 15 statements, and as we see, we have, yeah, some of these we have up here also, but there is the next in our research, of course, we compare these two, try to do analysis of the differences between these criteria, these indicators. At the same time, the most interesting, yeah, and this is actually the last slide, because we have a lot of data, of course, yeah, but for the presentation I chose the most pronounced aspects. Yeah, here is the least advanced aspect. As we see here, the lowest evaluation is understanding the impact of higher institution business collaboration, yeah, and cultivating academic spin-offs, and so on and so forth. What we can see here, here that some of these aspects, yeah, because this actually proves what I was talking in the very beginning, that although, because we had already interviews, yeah, but these interviews are not included in the current research paper, but we have had already interviews with administration members of the universities. But the point is that students do not exactly understand fully, as we see according to this evaluation, the full impact of these models. And this follows, hypothesis, of course, is to be proved. This follows from the lack of the strategic vision of the universities themselves. And that is really important, because if we talk about future development, I think that I don't want to say the merger, but the collaboration could be even should be even closer. And as we see in conclusions at this moment, and you have to keep in mind that this is only the 2.5 stage of our research. So then what we see here, it's very important that students actually understand many aspects of this collaboration. But as we see here, there are consistent gaps if we compare, if we compare results with importance and advancement. They're always like these gaps, like from 0.5 till 1. What it shows the gap or the scissors that should be investigated, and in some of the cases we see even the difference in 2.1 on the 7-point scale. Of course, we cannot reach the full agreement between these two scales, but particularly these scissors or the gaps or the differences between two scales or two evaluations. This is where we'll try to find the reasons, and we are going to perform later on. We'll perform factor analysis and to work out adaptation models. So it shows the future difference, the future directions of our research. Okay, that is in short for today. Thank you for your attention, and hope to see you in person next year. And here is my email if somebody wants to write to me and ask questions, or I invite also my colleagues for collaboration, because I'm really interested what is the situation in your countries in this field. Thank you so much. I stop sharing and I'm ready to answer your questions. Okay.
Thank you very much. And your presentation was very interesting, such as every formal presentation. I don't know, it's a tiered presentation or plenary section or tiered presentation? Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much again. And do you have any questions? Is there any questions? Yes,
Okay, dear Professor Weber, I'm very happy that you were able to cooperate on our conference. And I know that the research on behavioral economics in education is in your research interest for a longer time.
Yes.
Do you think it is possible to identify some key factors which influence undergraduates to choose maybe the higher education institution?
So actually, this was a part of also the previous research together with this student, and like I think I can't tell the numbers at this moment, because it was last year.
Yes.
But like one of the key factors, of course, is if we are talking about business students, because we're researching business students. It is like one of the key factors is, of course, the future job opportunities, and career opportunities, and creating the future contact possibilities for students. But first of all, it is like future job opportunities. So, and one of the indicators to look at this is also we have to show the students how like this collaboration model and this like overall vision is lacking. And I think if we can show students how we are doing this, not like 1, 2, or 3 particular activities, but if we're looking at this overall, I think it could be even more compelling for students to choose our, because of course a competition is high because of diminishing of the student number of students. Although this year is interesting because of the COVID, the number of local students increased. Why? Probably because students could not go study abroad. That's not a kind of positive. No, it's a positive statistics. It's not a positive factor. But I think these like kind of future job opportunities is the most important aspect.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye. And finally, I would like to welcome Associate Prof. Adam P. Balcerčák from University of Warmia and Mazury in Olsztyn, Poland. I have to mention the Associate Professor Balcerčák is editor-in-chief to interesting and important Poland journal. First one is O Economia Copernicana. This journal is indexing in the Web of Science, and impact factor is more than 2. And this journal is Q2. And second is Equilibrium, and Equilibrium is emerging citation index. Associate Professor Balcerčák, who is going to speak about the effectiveness of institution supporting entrepreneurship in the European countries, are now numbers the burden or the European advantage in the global competition. Please, if you are ready, you can start your presentation. Thank you.
Welcome, Thomas. I'm very glad that I can participate in this conference. Of course, it's a pity that we are not able to see each other physically, but still, I have very good feeling about this conference. I was participating in these conferences, in your conferences for probably last 4 or 5 years in different forms, but always I remember about this conference as the one of the best conferences in Central Europe. So thank you very much for your invitation. My standard technical question is this screen shared? Can you see my presentation? Can you see my presentation? Sorry. Okay. I see.
Mistakes. Now, yes. Okay.
It's okay. Yes. Okay. So I can see that I do not have much time, so I will do my best to be as short as possible. So let me first start with the general idea of this conference and this presentation and the title of my work here. So the title is the result of some ideas or thoughts or discussions that were present in European Union for last few years, especially within the context of global competition between Europe, United States, or Asian countries, with China as the most obvious example. And during these discussions, it was obvious that, well, European Union, Europe as a whole, is not the strongest player here. So Europe was losing competitive advantages from the perspective of new technologies and development of knowledge-based economies. So some economists, especially from the old Europe, were suggesting the following reason for this situation. The lower competitiveness of whole European Union is mostly the result, or can be mostly the result, of enlargement of European Union with these Central European countries, and with unnecessary investments, let's say, in the countries of Central Europe, instead of investing the same resources into the best, the strongest economies. So here I decided to confront this general idea. And I was concentrating on institutional factors from the perspective of dynamics of changes, of institutional improvements in the European Union countries. And the question, what can be the relations between institutional changes and total factor productivity growth in the EU countries. I was doing this research within the context of heterogeneity between old and new European Union. So my presentation now will be concentrating on two parts. The first part, I will shortly give you a description of my theoretical framework. Then I will give you empirical contribution. So if we are talking about my analysis from the theoretical perspective, of course, this is deeply rooted in institutional economics. And I concentrate here on institutions that can determine total factor productivity growth, both from microeconomic and macro perspective, which we can consider as five groups, five main groups or five main aspects. So first, we have formal regulation influencing entrepreneurship. Then we have effectiveness of juridical system. We have regulations affecting competitive pressure, regulations affecting the level of labor market transaction costs, and of course, financial markets. So now, let me move to very short description of these five aspects, and then I will provide you the results. So the general objective of this research is the presentation and discussion of the dynamics of institutional changes in the European Union within the context of heterogeneity between old and new EU member states. I have already told that. But then I need to stress that if we are talking about institutions, we do not look holistically at the whole system, because we would have to discuss formal, informal institutions and so on. We only concentrate on institutions that can have importance from the perspective of knowledge-based economy. So this is the first factor. Then we have relatively developed or developed countries. And then we have formal institutions, formal institutional aspects that are of crucial importance from the process of reallocation of resources. So this is the limitation of the scope of the analysis. Now let me move to the first institutional aspect, so formal regulations influencing entrepreneurship. And of course, we know that we have the situation when formal regulations affecting doing business, starting business, they affect transaction costs, they affect speed of reallocation of capital, which affects entrepreneurship intensity. So the regulations, the formal regulations influencing doing business, they have influence on new ventures, on startups, entrepreneurship level, corporate entrepreneurship also. And this, of course, have impact on total factor productivity at the level of enterprises and at the macroeconomic level. So we are talking about issues which affect new knowledge generation, new organization practices, managerial innovations, spillover effects, and generally speaking, all the issues that affect innovativeness level at the overall analytical perspective. Then the second aspect, it is quality of juridical system and also its influence on productivity of enterprises, on managerial decision making. And it is well proved that the quality of juridical system it affects investments of decision, it affects organization decisions, the scale of enterprises. We have many research papers confirming that ineffectiveness of quality of a juridical system, which is, for example, measured in terms of the time needed to solve disputes in courts between actors, of the business processes can affect, for example, the scale of enterprises. It can affect the way the enterprises are organized and the decisions are made. So the general conclusion is the following: if we have ineffective juridical system, the enterprises tend to be smaller, less competitive, the economy tend to lose competitive advantage. The third institutional aspects that are regulations affecting competitive pressure. And here again, we know that competitive intensity is dependent on regulations influencing transaction cost, barriers especially, which must be especially stressed, barriers to entry. So we have all factors creating incentives to invest in a new and more productive, technologically highly technologically advanced processes, and then we have improvement of innovation, spillover effects, overall changes of the productivity, the productivity growth. So the general issue is the following: we know that managers decide to invest in research and development and new ideas because they want to benefit from research and development. They want to have bigger profits in the end. But the problem is that these benefits from new ideas, new research and development are not automatic, and they are characterized with high level of risk. So if we want to invest to encourage managers to invest in research and development to be highly productive, we need to encourage them somehow. And the best encouragement is the intensity of competitive pressure. Of course, if we have better, more effective managers, organizations increase the share in the market, they win. The less competitive, the less willing managers to invest in the new ideas are less competitive, they lose market, they change their attitudes, or they are out of the market. Fourth institutional aspect, which I analyze, it's labor market elasticity. And of course, we know that if we have highly innovative enterprises, which are usually at the beginning with the smaller sizes, strict regulations can become a burden for small, highly entrepreneurial enterprises. Labor market inflexibility is highly inconsistent with the flexibility, non-hierarchical structures of entrepreneurial business. And of course, but do I say that we should have only very flexible market that does not look at employees' side at all? No, absolutely not. I claim that we should create institutions that provide reasonable needed flexibility within the context of safety for employees, which is of course needed to be also innovative on the microeconomic perspective. Last but not least, of course, last institutional aspect which I take into consideration, that are financial markets and their effectiveness. Of course, the issue of financial markets can be considered as kind of controversial after last global financial crisis. Before the financial crisis of 2008, everybody was claiming and happy about financial markets. We had this feeling that the more the better, the more innovative the better. But of course, in the end, we forget about effective governance and effective institutional regulations in terms of financial markets, which led to the crisis. Nowadays, there is the opposite side. A lot of economists say that, well, we should mostly concentrate on regulation. Financial markets are not so important. But of course, the truth is in the middle. We need to find kind of institutional equilibrium for effectiveness of financial markets. So, conclusion to this theoretical framework is the following. If we are talking about institutional framework from the perspective of knowledge-based economy, developed countries, we need to concentrate on entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship, startups. We are talking about technologically advanced sectors. We need to concentrate on reallocation of resources, the process of reallocation of resources, and the whole issue should be analyzed within the context of minimization of transaction costs and good quality governance standards. So the empirical part of my presentation, this is the results of multi-criteria analysis of quality of institutions for the EU countries for the period 2000-2015. The period was restricted with the availability of that data, short informed methodology, results, and conclusion. So the aim I have already told. I'm concentrating on the heterogeneity between old and new EU members. I want to see the dynamics of changes. Then I take into consideration the process of reallocation of resources. I take into consideration the issues relating to developed countries, knowledge-based economy, and I take into considerations institutions that can be modified, this is important, in a relatively short time, which means that we concentrate mostly on formal institutions. The whole framework is done within the concept of transaction cost theory. Empirically and statistically, we can say I applied TOPSIS method, which is generally well known. The difference is that I applied GDM distance measure in the TOPSIS. So as we do not have time and the method is commonly known, I will not discuss it very in details. But what is important at the overall level, we have two analytical levels. We can have two analytical levels. Overall level for the whole system, for the whole aspects, and we can have, for example, analytical level devoted to individual aspects, checking, verifying the given issue that can be interested to us, and we can group the countries into homogeneous groups. We can check the dynamics. So analyze 5 aspects which I discussed already. Empirically, the analysis is based on 28 potential diagnostic variables, data from Fraser Institute database, which is used for Index of Economic Freedom. If you want to see detailed the variables, the whole procedure described precisely, you can move to this paper, which has been published in Acta Politehnica Hungarica in 2020 in the first issue. The paper is in open access, available. So the detailed methodological issues are given there. Let me move to the results. Here you have the grouping of the countries from the perspective of overall effectiveness. The black one that are, let's say, to make it simple, that are good countries. The white one are the bad countries, so not very effective. The beginning, 2000 year, we can see that Central Europe is generally less effective, with Poland as the worst example. In 2000 year, the situation is changed. We can see the results of many institutional reforms that were implemented during the process of European Union enlargement. and in subsequent years. Here you can see the dynamics of changes, and of course it can be seen that the most important changes are done in Central Europe, but also it is interesting, improvements were done, for example, in Scandinavia, in Finland, in such countries like Denmark, also in Ireland. So we could say that the improvements are not only restricted to the bad ones, but also rich countries, developed countries were implementing some changes. So the conclusions, we can see the two spatial regimes. The division on old and new EU members is visible, which of course is rooted in the historical perspective. So the first years of the research, it is definitely the result of historical division and historical place of Central European countries. But the dynamics of institutional changes, we can see that improvements can be present in whole Central Europe. So Central European countries were increasing the quality of institutional system, and of course some economists can say something like this: the result is nothing special. It is statistical. From statistical perspective, it can be the result of low base effect. So we do not have anything to be proud of. But of course, it is not so simple. We can see that this institutional changes, they really translate into improvements in the final ranking. So our countries of our region are, generally speaking, in the middle of the ladder. There are some really strong examples like Estonia, for example, that are have very effective institutional systems. So Baltic countries are much better. Czech Republic is also not so bad, and so we can say that we can claim that we have institutional convergence process in the Central Europe. What is important, we can see lack of improvements in countries which need reforms. So during this period which was analyzed, not really it could be difficult to find significant improvements in let's say big players of European Union such as France or Italy or even Spain. Their positions was quite stable, not big efforts to change the situation was done. So my final conclusion is the following. I claim that from the institutional perspective, our countries are not burden for the European Union. We can be rather considered as examples of good transformation and big efforts to improve competitiveness, which in the overall system can increase competitiveness of European Union. So the burden, the real burden for the European economy are the biggest economies that do not reform, the biggest old EU economies that do not reform the institutional systems. And here, of course, we can point, I hope nobody will be angry at me now, that we can point France or Spain or Italy, these big countries that have big share in European economies and do not change too much. So that's my conclusions. I would like to, here you can see on the slide my email address, but I would also like to use this opportunity to advertise our international conference, which will be organized, I don't know how, but if it will be traditional on this the hybrid approach, which is very popular now. or even online, but it will be in June 2001, the conference, International Conference on Applied Economics, shortly speaking, contemporary issues in economy, with possibilities of publication in Economia Copernicana and Equilibrium, Quarterly Journal of Economics and Economic Policy. That are our main journals. And then there will be also other possibilities added in the future. But what is important about in previous years, about 70–80% of papers, long papers after reviewing process were published in our journal. So this conference can be also interesting from the perspective of the writers. So let me thank you. I'm looking to your questions.
Thank you very much, Adam. And I have one theoretical question. You was present describing about multi-criteria methods, TOPSIS, and other methods in Electre, Promete. And what do you think? Do you have any experience for another methods, the based the operation research, the data development method, DA methods?
No, you know, I here and also in my previous practice, I concentrate mostly on linear ordering methods. So I quite often use the method which was, I could say, pre-accessor of TOPSIS, the method proposed by Helwig, Polish scientist. We Polish people claim that TOPSIS was not created by these authors who claim they created, but it was created by Helwig. The authors, so-called authors of TOPSIS, they only they increased it with this negative solution. But Helwig is different in terms that we concentrate on the positive ideal solution only. So TOPSIS is in this term better. Of course, I also apply many grouping methods, but this is my most, let's say, most commonly used methods. They of course are quite simple. Which can be considered as methodological lack of fancy, but you know, from my perspective, the strong side of this approach is that generally speaking, everybody understands the methods. So we do not have this problem, and generally speaking, in terms of economics, the method are applicable, but we do not have the situation when application of the method is the main issue. Here, I want to concentrate on the institutional economics. The most important issue is the result from the perspective of institutions, not the fancy method.
Thank you very much. And we received two next question. The first one is anonymous. Do you see these questions, Adam?
You have on considering the global competition, can you assess Polish enterprises in the context of your research? So if I look at last decade, let's say, and the role of Polish enterprises, well, the situation is quite standard, I would say, typical for our region. So the first 20 years of transformation, so I would say till 2010, we had the process of constant transformation and adopting to market. But last decade, we can see that Polish enterprises benefit from the scale of the country. So they benefit from domestic economy, and they are able to be more competitive on the international markets, which can be measured and which can be seen, for example, in growing foreign direct investments of Polish enterprises outside our country. So we are not only importing capital like it was in the first decades of transformation, but we are starting also investing abroad. Our enterprises become more competitive, and it should be stressed, the political confirmation of this growing competitiveness of Polish enterprises is also visible on the European Union level. So if we are facing the issue, for example, of creating artificial burdens for competition at the European Union, like creating regulations concerning transport, which was the most transport companies, which was the most discussed issue in during last two years, and creations the laws especially negative for Central European countries. So this is the confirmation that old EU is afraid of growing competitive potential of our countries, including Poland, and the old EU tries to use regulation tools, let's say, to keep our competitiveness at the level which is not a threat to, let's say, old EU enterprises, so to enterprises from France or Germany. That's let's say. And the second question I can see, nice words, okay. Thank you for your presentation, which is that was, thank you, probably. Thank you very much, Denisa, for this. And the relevant changes in the EU brought. That was a comment, mostly comments, I assume.
Okay. Thank you very much. This once again. Okay.
So we do not have any questions. So Tomas, hello.
Hello.
Can I ask? Dear Associate Professor Balcerczak, thank you very much for your effort and perfect work as always. I am really interested in your opinion. My question is linked to Industry 4.0. Do you think that Industry 4.0 rapidly affects entrepreneurship in European Union's countries? What are its consequences? What do you think?
Well, definitely in case of that kind of question, I'm not able to answer negatively. Generally speaking, we all believe that Industry 4.0 makes the change. And we can see this change currently. So even if we take the context, for example, of COVID, and everybody says nowadays that the COVID and the online economy changes everything so quickly that during last few months we have jumped 10 years, a decade to online economy, and probably with Industry 4.0 we have the same situation. So I place Industry 4.0 for example from the perspective of Central European countries within the context of technological ladder models, which claim that it can be a big potential for such countries like Poland, Czech Republic, Slovakia, where we, in case of the development of new technologies, to some extent, we are at the same starting point as the developed countries. So we had bad traditional infrastructure. We have bad roads, or still have bad roads. But for example, from the perspective of internet connections or internet availability, we are definitely at the same level like new like all the developed European economies. So this is the advantage. We have highly educated workforce with good computer skills, with good online skills. This is our potential advantage. We are not worse than much more traditionally developed countries. So for us, I look at Industry 4.0 positively, mostly as the advantage. Of course, we need to remember that there are still the problems, and we must remember that in every society, the richest one in Europe and in Central European societies, we have the problem of electronic trap, or we have the problem of 20% of society that is not able to participate in this process due to, let's say, quality of human capital reasons or due to technological reasons. But the problems for us and the problems for developed countries are the same. So I personally think that we will benefit from the phenomenon.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I think it's everything. Thank you very much, Adam. See you.
So, Tomas, thank you one more time for your organization efforts. The conference is really great. I really do hope that next year, we will be able to meet, however it sounds, physically, in traditional way in beautiful Slovakia and beautiful region of Rajeckie Teplice.
Yes. You promised me 2, maybe 3 years. That
okay. That's the life. I really wanted to come, but now at least I can. I do not need to give you excuses. This is the objective excuse. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye bye, Adam.
Bye bye.
And at the end, I would like to thank you very much for your attendance. And after lunch break, there will be session chaired by Dr. Katarina Valaskova, devoted to the global impact of COVID-19 on economy and society. And so to conclude, enjoy the rest of the conference. I will be keeping my fingers crossed for better tomorrows. Then that the global situation will go well, and we will be able to meet personally and physically in Rajeckie Teplice next year. I wish you a nice day and goodbye. Thank you very much.